For the woman who's been loud her whole life, who's been told she's too much, she's intimidating, demasiado, ya cállate, whatever. The silence relocates. What it does is it hides in the moment that would cost her the most to speak. Y en ese momento, right then and there, in the middle of my own sentence, I heard a whisper. The whisper asked me, back it up. What is your proof that what you're saying is true? We cannot control the external questioning. But when the whisper comes in and the whisper starts telling you things, that is the sound your growth makes while the whisper is there.
Sabrosura pa' ti que qué.
Hola, hola. Welcome back to Café con Pam, the bilingual podcast that celebrates the power of our stories, the medicine in our voices, and the magic of reclaiming who we are. Pull up your cafecito, que este episodio es para ti. Yo soy Pam Covarrubias, your host. Y el día de hoy, we talk about the whisper that shows up for the most confident women in the room. The one that leans in and says, how are you going to back it up? And why the loudest woman is so often the most calladita in the moment that actually counts. By the end of this episode, you're going to have a name for the one moment your certainty goes quiet. You're going to know where the moment lives, why it visits the most confident woman in the room, and what to do in the half second it arrives. Because we know Latinas don't need any more confidence, but the whispers might still get us. Let's start from the beginning. I was in a call the other day with a client, and mid-sentence, I was teaching my body of work. The framework I have built, the framework, the methodology, all the steps I've been living for 20 years. First in my own life, and then with every client who sat across from me through the screen or in person. This is on a live call with a client. I'm not reading off a slide. Everything I'm saying is coming from my body, from memory, from my own certainty. Y en ese momento, right then and there, in the middle of my own sentence, I heard a whisper. The whisper asked me, back it up. What is your proof that what you're saying is true? Y luego, immediately I felt the pull in my body. My brain opened up a new tab, in the hundreds of tabs that I've opened. I opened a new tab that said, research unlocked, new rabbit hole unlocked, or old rabbit hole unlocked, I guess. That whisper says, look for a study, look for a citation, look for a westernized framework with a name I can borrow so I can back up my own work, like some outside stamp of approval that says this is allowed to be true. I've said this out loud before, many times, that those previously created westernized frameworks were not built for us. Y al mismo tiempo, in that moment, in that half a second, I wanted one to co-sign me. So I'm naming this because I want us all, we're all in the journey. I want us all to give ourselves permission to exist in the dichotomy of that narrative that often happens in our bodies that says, you know who you are, you know what you're made of, you know what you've built. And at the same time, because how we've been socialized, there is this questioning that says, but has somebody already studied it? Or is there another way to prove that what you're saying is true? So in that moment during that call, I took a breath. And in that breath, I remembered that I had just taught a whole lesson from the inside out, live, from my body. And my next move was to claim it. My next move was to let the proving fall away and own the thing out loud. in my own authority, in my within my own certainty, because while I was in the moment coaching my client, I didn't doubt it. It was when I paused to wait for her reflection that my body doubted and was like, "Can you cite somebody else to say that this is true?" I often pause like this when I'm waiting for my client to reflect back, or I ask a question, how is that landing, or what is coming up for you? And at that moment is when my whisper came, and instead of going to look into my archives of my random facts that I have to back up my body of work, I actually sat in my own certainty and I brought myself back to say, "No, no, no. You just taught a whole class on your own methodology, own it." But later, once the call ended, I was writing my notes so I can keep track of what we talk about. And that's when I got to reflect. That's when I actually got to ask myself the real question. Why did I doubt myself in that moment? And of course, I'm always my first client. I did the exercise I give everybody, the one that I always come back to, like it's the first doorway we go through. I ask my body, what do I know to be true? And the answer was already waiting for me. 20 years. First with myself, then with hundreds of women. And that is the evidence that I have. And that evidence is enough. Because what I realized is that I was standing in the room with all the evidence in front of me the whole time I was doubting it. The whisper is what I want us to pause and kind of like witness, because the whisper is a coordinate. The whisper is a marker, and it marks the place where your silence still lives. For the woman who's been loud her whole life, who's been told she's too much, she's intimidating, demasiado, ya cállate, whatever, the silence relocates. What it does is it hides in the moment that would cost her the most to speak. Let's think about that again. The silence that you have overcome because, quote, you're the loudest, still lives within you because how we've been socialized. And many times where it shows up is in the moment that would cost you the most to speak. The meeting where you swallow the question, the sentence where you reach for someone else's proof, the idea you water down at the last second so the room stays comfortable. And so, my invitation to you is to protest the whisper. And we protested by giving proof, by owning your truth. The woman who says loudly, "I'm not calladita, I hear you all the time." And this is why I'm doing this episode, because I often hear you say, "You know what? I'm not calladita. Yo soy loud and proud." No? That is often pointing straight at the door the silence is standing behind, because the volume is actually the tell. The insistence is the map we have. Let me give you another frame for this. Yo tengo una tía who spent years telling me and telling anyone who will listen that Crocs, the shoes, they're the ugliest shoes ever made. And I'm a proud Crocs wearer. A ella le gusta molestar, ¿no? And so because she knows that I love my Crocs, she's like even louder about it. Like she would never wear them, not in a million years. And as you know, Crocs as a brand is polarizing. That's why I love them, because you either are team Crocs or you are team anti Crocs. You either love them or you don't. And one day she came to visit and she had to run out to her car. Something happened. I don't remember. It's irrelevant to the story. The point is that she needed to leave the house really quickly and she didn't have any shoes. Well, the first thing that was by the door were my Crocs. So obviously, she needs to run out to the car. She puts them on. And she walks out into the street in public in the ugliest, quote, ugliest shoes ever made, quote. She comes back and she says, well, I guess they are comfortable, but I still would never buy them. And my satisfaction. I went to look at her and I was like, but you did though. You did wear them. And you wore them for like 20 minutes, bro. The loudest protester in the room, the loudest untie Crocs in the house at the time, wore them the second it mattered to her. Her contempt was pointing straight at how much she wanted the comfort and how hard it was to claim it out loud. So I want us to think about how many of us have done a version of this. Probably many of you. And the reframe I'm inviting all of us to step into today, because I have my own story of my whisper. I have many stories of clients and their whispers, is that being questioned is the working state of this work. Because when someone asks you to back it up, when the whisper leans in, and sometimes, listen, you're questioned because you're young. Sometimes you're questioned because you're Latina. Sometimes you're questioned because this is your first leadership role. We cannot control the external questioning. But when the whisper comes in and the whisper starts telling you things, that is the sound your growth makes while the whisper is there. Because the people doing the deepest work get questioned the most. ¿Por qué? Because you're standing somewhere new. It's new territory. And being questioned is proof that you are on the ground you were told to stay off of.
Hay conversaciones que nos enseñaron a callar, y dinero was one of them. Pero here's the truth. Tu dignidad financiera no debería depender de que traduzcas todo para tu mamá, tus tías, tu abuelita o quien sea. Savvy Ladies just made it easier than ever to get financial help en español. Their free helpline means your mama can ask a question without you having to translate shame, confusion, or whatever her comadre told her. Talleres, clases, consejos, todo completamente gratis y con el respeto que nuestras familias merecen. Porque libertad financiera no es lujo, es necesidad. So whether it's you or your mama who's ready to take that first step, go to savvyladies.org. That is SAVVYLADIES.org. Empieza hoy. La dignidad financiera no se pide, se reclama. You know what's frustrating? Losing your wallet. And sometimes what's even more painful? Realizing your almost full punch card from your favorite cafecito spot is now gone. But at least, even when your cafecito points have vanished, at BMO, if you lose your debit card, they'll print you a new one instantly at a local branch. Plus, you can use your phone to freeze your debit card to prevent any unauthorized transactions. Learn more at bmo.com. Conditions apply. Accounts provided in the United States by BMO Bank and a member FDIC.
Let me show you what the whisper looks like when the whisper wins. I have a client who, by every measure, she is a leader. She is a first gen. She is running teams. She is the one that speaks up when nobody else will. Literally, she's known as, you know what, if you need something done, or if you're ever in a meeting and you need an advocate, we know she's going to stand up for you. And she sat in a leadership meeting with one question burning a hole in her. A real question. The kind of question that changes the direction of a decision. And she decided to swallow it. She held it in her mouth and let the meeting move on without her asking it. Then she carried the question around for 3 weeks. 3 weeks rehearsing it, resenting it, and wondering what would have happened if she had let it out. Technically speaking, she's a loud woman by every measure. And in the moment that mattered most, her silence still found somewhere to hide. So the move in real life is the actual half second. Is when your body tells you, oof, here comes the whisper. When you feel the whisper arrive, when you feel the pull to reach for outside proof or to swallow the thing whole, you do what I did with Crocs. You put the mockable thing on your own feet first, you own it out loud, you own it on purpose before the room can use it against you. You claim the question, you claim the framework, you claim the sentence, you claim the fact that you love shoes that are ugly because they're comfortable. You say the thing is still yours because it's yours. You say it while it's still yours to say it. Because owning it out loud takes the weapon out of everyone's hands, including your own. Let's think about that for a second. And this has taken me a long time to learn it until I finally was like, you know what? I'm not the biggest podcast in the room. I am not the one with the most downloads, but I'm the one that owns the fact that I'm tiny. I'm the one that owns the fact that I don't have the biggest team. I'm the first one to say so. And you know what? I'm being awarded for it now. I don't know if I can quite share that yet, but I'm being recognized this year. Maybe later, you'll get to know because I decided to own my weird, my differentiator, like Crocs did. My invitation to you is now you have something perhaps you didn't before the episode started. You have a name for the whisper. You know, the whisper is a little coordinate. The whisper is simply showing you the place your certainty still goes quiet. And the protest is the proof. And the loudest thing you defend is often the door your silence is standing behind. Pero the good news is that you know the move. You wear the Crocs. You claim that out loud before anyone can weaponize it. Because you were always, and you have always been enough. The certainty was always in your body. We just needed a name for the programming that taught us to go looking for someone else's stamp of approval before we could trust our own experience, our own lived experience. The programming now has a name. You have the awareness for it. And a thing with a name is a thing you can finally put down. So think about it. What is it for you? What is it that perhaps your silence might still be hiding behind? What is it that you're on one end really proud of, and then on another end, there might be a whisper still saying, "Ooh, but are you sure?" Think about it. Tell me, comment, screenshot and tag me. I love hearing from you. And if you recognize yourself in the whisper, perhaps you know that you felt it in the half a second in your body. Maybe that's a start. That's awareness. That's recognition. And that is a great, incredible first step. You can stop there, just being aware. Pero, además, when you're ready for language, for the exact conditioning that taught you to reach for proof before you would claim your own truth, I'm going to own the fact that I created the Calladita Culture Quiz. It's free. It gives you the wound that's running the show. And it takes 5 minutes. cafeconpam.com/quiz. Take it. Tell me your results. Let me know what resonates. It's in the works to improve now. I have developed a lot more around it because the more I work with us, the more lived experience I have, the more proof I have with our own stories. And so I invite you to take it now because it's in the works of being improved. And then you're going to get a lot more from the quiz that I'm really excited about, actually. But my goal for today was for you to understand that while you may feel good on one end, there might still be some whispers coming. And that doesn't mean that you're broken or there's anything to fix. It simply means that there's a little bit of silence still living there. And that's okay because you have the awareness now to catch the whisper before you take it into action. You catch it. So remember the consciousness triangle because we're Humans operate this way. We feel first. We create awareness. Like, what am I feeling? That's the whisper. You're listening to the whisper. Okay. So you have awareness. And then it moves into a thought. You choose what to do with the thought. We feel the threat potentially. We feel the emotion, not always coming from a threat, but you feel it. Then you think about it. And then you choose, what am I going to do with this? You get to question it now because it's not true. You don't have to believe it. Just because it's in your head doesn't mean that you have to believe that it's true. You get to question it. But we honor it by saying, body, I see you. You're feeling something. Maybe there's some questioning that you have there that you don't want to say what you want to say. Cool. What am I going to choose to do with this? In my case, my whisper was saying, well, how are you going to prove that what you're saying is true? And then I chose to bring myself back to the truth, which is I have years of proof through my clients' case studies, through my own case studies, and through the results of my work. That's proof enough. Because every other framework that's ever been created started with that question. And so we get to build our own now. Y bueno, I love getting listener questions. So send me a listener question. It's all over the link in bio. Of course, we have it in the show notes. Leave a comment, all the things. Stay shining. Thank you so much for being here. Y nos vemos para la próxima. Café con Pam is created con mucho amor by our small but mighty team. Content production by Nancy Jaimes. Podcast management by Maru Linardi. Social media and marketing by Brenda Figueroa. And me, your host, Pam Covarrubias. To keep the cafecito brewing and the healing flowing, join the Supporters Club for only $5 a month and access early episodes, behind-the-scenes vibes, and exclusive minisodes you won't hear anywhere else. Screenshot this episode and tag me and share what resonated. I love seeing your takeaways. Follow on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's keep the conversation going with us on social media at Café con Pan Podcast because your voice always matters there. We love being on Instagram and Facebook. Gracias for listening to Café con Pan, a Spread Ideas Move People production. For more episodes, guest info, or resources, visit cafeconpam.com. And if you're healing from calladita culture and don't know where to start, you can take the quiz. cafeconpam.com/quiz for Tia Wisdom and cariño just for you.
Sabrosura pa' ti que